Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
What can we expect in the hearing?
Well, he was probably one of the most famous people at that time. I think he'll go down in history as one of the most infamous villains of history. Again, it is going to take us time. We literally just, Senator Paul and my office just got those devices. Senator Paul, and I appreciate the fact, released in the public. We're going to go through them thoroughly, combine them with the 11 million pages we got, with what we found about how FDA knew of the fact that their algorithm is going to mask safety signals. They saw the safety signals. By the way, one of them was pulmonary infarction, which 5 months later, apparently, Anthony Fauci had a pulmonary infarction, told no one. I'll ask him, did you suspect that the COVID injections caused your pulmonary infarction? Maybe you should have warned the American public about these things. So again, FDA knew, he knew the safety signals were screaming at them. We had something like 40 to 50,000 reports to VAERS prior to 2021. We had over 1 million reports submitted to VAERS in 2021 after the injection. There were 21,000 deaths, and they saw no safety signals. So, no, there's a lot he needs to be held accountable for.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast, and it is Truth Thursday, folks. Friends, what you just saw is no conspiracy theory. It's the documented reality of how Dr. Anthony Fauci and his inner circle ran a cover-up that shattered American life. Churches locked their doors, schools closed, and kids lost years and years of learning. Small businesses were crushed in this country. Doctors were silenced, and public trust in government and medicine and public health was deliberately destroyed, all while the same people who pushed the lockdowns, the mandates, the experimental shots got richer and more powerful. And today we're going to confront that wreckage from Dr. Fauci's lies of death and destruction head on. My guest lived it, he saw it, and has been sounding the alarm from a biblical and cultural perspective ever since. Dr. Alex McFarland is a youth religion and culture expert, the author of 20 books, including his brand new release, 100 Bible Questions and Answers on Prophecy and the End Times. You hear him live every day on nearly 200 stations across the American Family Radio Network, and he hosts the Alex McFarland Show on NRB TV. He also serves as the director of Worldview at Cherish Bible College. Alex has watched the spiritual and moral collapse that followed the pandemic policies, and he is not afraid to call it what it was, lies that cost lives and liberty. Alex, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show, sir. Glad to have you with us.
Colonel Maness, thank you for having me. Thank you for that very gracious introduction. Most of all, thank you for what you do for America, proclaiming truth as you do, inspiring and equipping people. It's great to be on with you, sir.
It's good to have you here. And when I found out I was able to get you, I remember the first time we talked that we had talked about what was going on in churches and the pandemic and those kind of things. And when you saw this guy, Fauci, invoke the Fifth Amendment and refuse to answer any questions, what were you thinking about when you saw that?
I was thinking that I was watching a coward.
Yeah.
I mean, 111 times he invoked the Fifth Amendment. Wouldn't even answer one of the questions when it was clear that he was just stonewalling and cowardly, not willing to own up to the decisions he made that cost millions of lives. Did treasonous, generational long amounts of damage to the United States of America, all for a little celebrity and a lot of under the table money that he received. I was watching yesterday some of the hearings, and Fauci, he looked like the minuscule little coward that he is. You know, the glory days are past. The momentary tin horn authority that he thought he held in his hands, the condescending way that he would mock the rights of the American people and those that thought ivermectin would help, which in truth it would. Oh my goodness, do I have stories? But, he's a guy that, let me just say that the Senate hearings are the least of his worries. That man is going to face Almighty God for the millions of lives that he was responsible for murdering through his just the policies, the positions, not of a scientist or medical practitioner, but a madman, a delusional. I truly place him on the level of Adolf Hitler. In fact, Fauci is probably responsible for more deaths than Adolf Hitler. But
it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Anna Paulina Luna, the congresswoman from Florida, equated him to our own Dr. Mengele.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? It's interesting. We do a radio show that we've done for 16 years called Exploring the Word. Then I'm also on another program called Truth and Liberty. Exploring the Word is a Bible teaching show. Truth and Liberty is a culture and political oriented show from a biblical worldview and a constitutional American worldview. But, we have millions of listeners every week. And I well remember 2020. Colonel Manus, let's go back and recount some of these steps. February the 1st of 2020, most of us had barely heard the word COVID. It was beginning to be heard in the news a little bit. But by the first or second week of March 2020, roughly about a 6-week period, the whole world was under lockdown. And I had numbers of medical doctors that listen to our programming and read my books and have supported the various things that we do. And I had numbers of medical doctors tell me when the vaccine came out, Alex, do not take that vaccine. And being married to a nurse for 35 years, my wife is a nurse. She lost a job. She wouldn't take the vaccine. And, it's so funny, not funny, but ironic that the very same, my body, my choice crowd that wants to, have no legal protection for the unborn, they were not saying my body, my choice when it came to those out of good, conscientious, philosophical objection, did not want to be forced to take vaccines. And so I was in correspondence with many medical doctors. Now, listen to this. Asheville, North Carolina, the western part of my home state of North Carolina. A man called me, and he had the most unusual statement. Now, listen to this. His wife had come down with COVID. So they were the doctor, and this was before Fauci got his hands on the reins of American healthcare. This particular doctor in Spartanburg, South Carolina, prescribed ivermectin. Now, I think we all remember what a mockery it was when Donald Trump, said, I'm hearing from credible medical professionals that ivermectin can cure COVID. And ivermectin is one of the basic, along with aspirin. The World Health Organization says it's a necessary medicine that all people should have access to. So this man calls me and he tells me, he says, we're driving up Highway 26 to Asheville. The doctor wants my wife to take ivermectin and nobody has it. No pharmacy in Spartanburg or Greenville has it. We're going to drive about an hour up to Asheville. There's a pharmacy there that has ivermectin. So anyway, I said, okay, great. Now this particular gentleman, well-known businessman on the East Coast, he and I had a phone appointment. He said, give me a call in an hour or two. And I said, sure. So listen to this. And everybody watching would know crazy stories like this. I said, hey, did you go to Asheville? Did you get your wife's prescription of ivermectin? And he said, yeah. He said, I had to fight for it. I said, what do you mean? He said, the strangest thing happened. He said, I go to this drugstore, this pharmacy, and I pay the money, get the prescription, ivermectin. Doctor prescribed it, going to give it to my wife who has COVID. He said, I was walking to the car, and the pharmacist came out and said, wait, give me that. Give me that. He said, I've already paid for it. And the doctor said, no, it's illegal. You cannot have that. It's ivermectin. And the man said, I was beside my car. I looked, I have a doctor's prescription. The pharmacy filled the prescription. I said, the pharmacist comes out. And this guy is, 60. The pharmacist is a few years younger. Grabs me. Is trying to wrestle that from me. And he said, hey, buddy, unless you want an assault charge, let me go. I've got this prescription. I paid for it. He said, I got in the car and drove away. He said it was the most surreal thing. A pharmacist was going to fight me to take back the prescription I had already paid for. His wife. But here's the point. The welfare, the informed medical decisions of America's doctors, the informed consent of America's patients, the right to health care for American citizens was jeopardized and in millions of cases taken away. People died, and it's at the feet, the blood is on the hands of Dr. Robert Fauci. May God have mercy on this man's poor soul.
It is at his feet, and just think about that story you just told, Alex, and all the different ways that the doctor-patient and the medical profession and the public health service profession are destroyed in that one short, real-life story and experience, and you magnify that on a global scale, and in our case, on a national scale, and that he literally destroyed the ability of the average American to get informed consent medical.
Yeah. So let me tell you
something
something
where we're
else. Okay, during COVID, I was pastoring a church, and people began to die. Older people begin to die. And it wasn't necessarily because they got COVID-19, but they were not allowed to have medical care. Everybody was masked up. Do you know, to this day, I see people just this morning, I was in a public place. I saw some man wearing two masks. And you probably know, Colonel Manus, that around 1,500 scientific studies over the last 6 years have shown, as one writer from the Netherlands wrote, the efficacy of the masks to hold back, a toxin like the COVID virus. Would be like a chain link fence stopping a mosquito.
Yeah.
Those masks mean nothing. They are political theater. That's all they were. And yet to this day, I see adults foolishly, ludicrously wearing masks. which do nothing. But here's the other thing. For 28 years, we've done summer camps. We have 1,500 teenagers a year in summer camps, learning about Christ, learning about America. Right. And the kids that were just paranoid would not go out. Even a month ago, one of the camps, we've done 6, I've got 2 more this summer, a camp that I do in eastern North Carolina. Kids are out playing volleyball, soccer, hiking, doing what teenagers do. Kids in the hot outdoor summer sun wearing masks, scared of their own shadow. Besides the physical damage and the deaths, and I did so many funerals. I did a funeral of a pastor's wife. And she died alone in a hospital. Neither her husband nor her children were allowed to be there. And people watching might say, well, that was some isolated case. No, it was not.
No.
It was not. Across America, people died alone in hospital situations with malpractice. Family members weren't allowed in. Funerals weren't allowed to take place. I remember in 2020, I did a funeral for a family, and I, as the minister, and one person was allowed in this sanctuary. It was ludicrous. And I was saying, look, we need to engage in principled civil disobedience. Yeah. The emotional, the psychological, not to mention the physical scars of COVID. Dr. Fauci, it's on you, sir.
It is.
May God help you.
It is. I got to take a break, Dr. McFarland. When we come back, I've got a question in the audience. We'll take that and we'll continue this discussion because I want you to tell as many stories about the harms done to Americans and our liberty as you can possibly tell. I know there's not enough time, but we're going to tell them because the people need to hear again what this man did. We'll be right back with Dr. Alex McFarland.
Take a look at the water you just poured. It looks clean. It tastes fine. But what's really in it? Lead, fluoride, arsenic, chlorine, pesticides, PFAS forever chemicals, pharmaceutical residues, and bacteria. Every single day, these toxins flow straight from your tap into your glass, into your family. It's time for Sentry H2O from Worldview Water. Sentry H2O is the ultimate water treatment technology, designed to remove harmful toxins, balance your water's pH, and enrich it with essential minerals like calcium and magnesium, the way nature intended. From commercial-scale systems to whole house filtration to crisp, delicious drinking water right at your kitchen sink and shower, Sentry H2O delivers cleaner, healthier water everywhere you need it. No plumber, no tools, no plumbing knowledge required. Perfect for homes, apartments, rentals, RVs, refrigerators, and more. Because everyone deserves access to clean, healthy water. Visit worldviewwater.net. That's worldviewwater.net.
Mr. Chairman. Well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally, cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Welcome back to the Rob Manor Show. It's Truth Thursday. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. My guest today is Dr. Alex McFarland, who is a minister and an author, host in his own right on multiple shows on American Family Radio. Millions of people listen to Dr. McFarland. And Alex, before we get to the audience question here real quick, I played that clip because Hawley is an attorney general from Missouri, is what his job was before he became a senator. It's not like he doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to civil and criminal law. And the other reason I wanted to show that clip is that he dispassionately lays out at the end of it the harms, billions of people dead, because of the things this man did. It's just, I've gotten less emotional as I've gotten older. I'm in my mid 60s now. But when I hear these, I tear up. I get misty eyed because I remember what the people were going through. And I have friends who had to watch their loved ones die through a glass window because they weren't allowed in. People were put on respirators unnecessarily. The authorities were convinced to produce more through the Defense Production Act, and then all of a sudden they stopped using them because people were dying when they were put on respirators. And they stopped dying on respirators when that ended. All of those recommendations came from one place, Dr. Fauci and his team. And it's just incredible. Well, let's take this question from the audience real quick. Go ahead, Shell.
We have Prometheus, sir.
Hi, Rob. It is a pleasure to be on your show. Doctor, it is an honor to speak to you. I was part of the anti-lockdown movement in the UK. And, since we didn't jail anyone the first time, I believe these people are setting us up to do this all over again. And so, Doctor, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how it is the global health awakened community, which I believe now is in the millions of us. What can we do to prepare ourselves for the next plandemic? Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you for listening. That is a fantastic question, an excellently phrased question. And yes, I do think the operative word is plandemic. I will tell you, this is dress rehearsal for another global police state, global lockdown in the future. I've got to believe that Dr. Fauci and many of the globalists probably were profoundly surprised at how successful they were in 2020 at locking down the world. Let me give you for example. A couple of years prior to COVID, I had been in Zambia. Actually, we've made multiple trips, and my wife, as a nurse, has gone to the Sudan on medical mission trips. And I was watching in mid to late March of 2020 outside of Lusaka, Zambia, where I've been more than once. I saw a village that I was familiar with where in the bush country of Zambia, people were wearing masks 100 miles outside of Lusaka. And it really chilled me to the bone because, I know that part of the world, and that is out there in the bush country, and yet the draconian enforcement arm of the World Health Organization and governments that were in compliance were making villagers in Zambia wear masks. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I do think many powers that be, whether they be Marxist, whether they be utopian globalists, whether they be advocates of Sharia, whether they be China and its bent toward world domination, there will be other pandemics, attempts to control the world. And so medical professionals, for one thing, this is going to be a season of history where truth and the welfare of fellow human beings is going to call on all of us to put everything on the line, whether it be position, reputation. Look, I had fellow ministers, ordained clergy, just lambasting me, mocking me, because I was having church services. And I said, look, how is it that church and schools are not necessary entities, but the liquor stores are open? The abortion clinics are open. Department stores are open. And so I ultimately, the church that I was pastoring in Greensboro, North Carolina, I lost that church, and it was no big loss. But some of the elders were so terrified, so paranoid, they were not going to have church. And so it was kind of a split, those of us that decided we would obey God rather than man, and those that were fearful. And, the government is going to sue us. And, what if somebody dies? And look, we all know this, the 6-foot spacing rule. Yeah, airports, all in public places, they put the little circles on the floor, stay 6 feet apart. Well, we later learned that was utterly meaningless, arbitrary. There was no science, zero science behind the 6-foot spacing rule that we all were forced to live under. And even after the mask mandates were lifted, we probably all know how people would look askance if you were in public without a mask. So for medical doctors, nurses, educators, ministers, healthcare providers, and first responders, we're going to have to say to whomever, no. And I want to be on record and say this, regardless of what anybody thinks. Thank God for Donald Trump. Thank God for a courageous president, whether you like everything about Trump or not. Look, had Kamala Harris followed the non-president Joe Biden, God help us, it would have been the end for America. So the globalist will certainly try this again. We cannot. Professionals, leaders, persons with a voice, citizens everywhere, no, no, no. We will not be controlled like rats in a maze at the cost of human life.
Yeah, Alex, I'm glad you brought that up about your pastoring and the church and everything. Now, looking back, you're among pastors, I'm assuming, as part of associations. You guys probably meet every so often, at least in a large group of pastors. What is the sense that you have? Are they now like you and me, where we're like, no, we're not going to do that ever again? You're not going to shut down the ability of an American to come to a church and practice their religion. Are they like that, or are they still kind of talking about it and going, well, it depends on the circumstances, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I have to say, a lot of pastors are very much milquetoast. And sadly, pastors that are independent thinkers and persons of courage and conviction, I'm sad to say for my profession, it's fairly rare. But there are those of us that know what we believe and why we believe it, and we know our rights, and we're willing to defend our rights. I think about out in California, there was John MacArthur, rest his soul. He just died. The California state government fined John MacArthur's church, I think it was around $17 million.
Oh, my goodness.
For being open. Every day they were accruing several $100,000 in fines that I know they had to spend hundreds of thousands to litigate and defend their rights. And there were, I'm thinking of some pastors that I know of that are incredibly gutsy, West Coast, Midwest, East Coast, and those of us that were willing to get on the front line and fight during COVID, we remain emboldened. And I think a lot of the pastors that were kind of on the fence now do feel some boldness. But let me share this. And I've shared this story on...
Let's take this commercial break here real quick and then come right back in and we'll share that and then we'll take a question from the audience. So we've got to go ahead. And we'll be right back with Dr. Alex McFarland.
At a certain age, you stop chasing younger. You start protecting what helps you feel steady, strong, and well. Your body's collagen matters. It supports the structure of your skin, joints, and connective tissue. But as the years go by, your body needs more support from the inside. That's where Bella Grace Elixir comes in. Bella Grace Elixir combines Verisol collagen, the world's most clinically proven collagen, with asteryl astaxanthin and cat's claw in a proprietary blend designed to help support the processes that reconstruct collagen, while also offering antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. And this isn't just for women. It's for men and women who want to age with more confidence, more care, and a daily wellness routine that supports the body from within. One simple elixir, thoughtfully formulated for whole body wellness. Take care of the body that has carried you this far. Order Bella Grace Elixir today at melissahousebg.com.
These are average, again, Bayer's doesn't improve causation, but there's correlation. It's there for safety signals. So ivermectin, over 30 years of FDA reports, 17 deaths per year. Hydroxychloroquine, over 38 years of reporting, 142 deaths per year. Remdesivir, over 5.5 years, 546 deaths per year. The COVID injection, almost 7,000 deaths per year. Which is safest? What did the FDA freak us out about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, when they turned a complete blind's eye toward the injection's injury? So I want to enter the quote from the surgeon. By the way, here's the answer. Cheryl Atkinson in an interview said that when it comes to money, we check financial ties among experts on the government panel devising coronavirus treatment guidelines, which had the effect of dialing back hydroxychloroquine use and giving an edge to remdesivir. We found the 11 members reporting links to a drug company, 9 of them named relationships to remdesivir's maker, Gilead. 7 more, including 2 of the committee leaders, have ties to Gilead beyond the 11 months they had to disclose. 2 were on Gilead's advisory board. Others were paid consultants who received research support and honoraria. By the way, within the study, I think one of the study participants was an employee of Gilead. A bunch also had conflicts with Gilead. So, gee, I wonder why. There are conflicts of interest. Gilead made billions of dollars off of remdesivir and people died. In terms of ignoring safety signals, you can probably put that down now. This has come to light. This is Dr. Drew Weissman, who got the Nobel Prize for the mRNA platform. He wrote to Dr. Fauci on February 8th of 2020. Tony, I wanted to alert you to...
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday. Fauci lied and people died, and we're telling the truth about it. My guest today is Pastor Dr. Alex McFarland, an author, show host, among many other things. And Alex, you were about to tell a story when I went to commercial break. Go ahead and tell the folks the story that you were starting.
Well, Rob, thanks for having me. Colonel Maness, I'm sorry. Colonel Maness, thanks for having me on. I just look back and I lament The funerals I did a funeral by Zoom for a family that lost a loved one during COVID because they weren't able to assemble and just go through the normal bereavement process. And I look at the intrusion of the U.S. government into the lives of people, and then when people humbly did want to assert their constitutional rights and the right to, really their own choices, self-determination. They were often shamed and mocked. I think about good women and men in our military that lost their jobs. I think about good people in the medical field, people in education, people of all walks of life. Besides the deaths, as bad as that was, just the disruption of American life and the psychological duress that children and grown-ups were put under. But the recklessness, the story I was going to tell, the recklessness of a person like Fauci in a position of influence. In the spring of 21, I was beginning to get some speaking engagements. And by the way, let me just say this for what it's worth. I've been a self-employed speaker and writer for 28 years. I was a college president. I've written books. I've done consulting. I'm doing some consulting for a college right now. But I've been self-employed for 28 years. When 2020 began, I had 38 clients on the books for calendar year 2020. By mid to late February, I had 0. So 38, I'm a 1099. Everything I make is self-employment, whether it's writing, speaking, consulting, preaching, So by the 1st of March, my income for 2020 was going to be 0. And I know many self-employed people, tradesmen, content creators. Well, by the grace of God, I got a teaching gig with a university by Zoom. So I began to teach. And by August of 2020, I was beginning to make some income. But so Fauci's reckless policy and the left-wing lackeys that helped enforce these reckless policies, they did what they did to America. But let me say this. Spring of 21, I got a speaking engagement. So I'm back on the road. And my staff and I had this engagement. I was in South Carolina. And a husband and wife came up and they said, "May we talk to you?" And I said, "Sure." Very, very impressive couple. I would say early 50s, appeared to be very, very credible people. And they said, "We own several funeral homes." And they said that we are seeing people die from heart failure, and they come in and their blood is so viscous. They said it's like syrup and sand. And this is kind of unseemly, but folks, bear with me. They said the embalming pumps that extract the blood and then pump in embalming fluid, these pumps are wearing out. They said this is something you're not going to hear in the news, but we can tell who's had the COVID shot and the boosters because very often their blood coagulates into this. And I saw photographs. It's not something you want to see. But I shared this on a couple of national media platforms, and I got dozens of calls and emails from people that are in the funeral industry who said, the embalming pumps in many cases burn out because when someone dies and people at a young age, we know if it's because of the reaction of the blood in the COVID situations, and it's so viscous that the pumps can barely even extract this fluid, this rubbery fluid to get it out and put the embalming fluid in.
There's a
As it
whole,
was
there's a
shown
whole,
in that clip there. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
the companies and Fauci himself made money on
Yeah.
this experimentation on the American people.
You know, Senator Johnson confronted Fauci. He pled the fifth, but he asked him. He said, "Do you know that remdesivir is known as run death is near by the medical community, and that they refuse to use it on themselves? Run
Yeah.
death is near." And I've talked to surviving family members of folks that were given that stuff, and it killed them. It killed them. There's a
Yeah.
lot of that that's happened, and I'm glad you told that story because that's a story that's not widely known, but it's accurate.
Yeah.
And you're just telling the story of what professionals informed you of from multiple credible sources that don't even know each other. That's
Yeah.
why it's a credible story. Well, let's take a
Yeah.
question from the audience. We got some hands up over there. Go ahead, Joe.
Hello, gentlemen. Rusty Cannon has a question from the audience. She would like to know about Senator Johnson's questioning Fauci about his own pulmonary infarction. And he asked if Fauci ever wondered if that was due to the multiple vaccines he himself had. She's curious, sir, your thoughts on that question from Johnson.
Yeah, I think it came out earlier this week that in Fauci's diaries or notes that he himself, he did comment on that, but didn't bring it to light to the American people. I believe that was reported 2 days ago in the news. Colonel Manus, did you hear that?
Yeah, that was part of the private diaries, is what they're calling them, that Senator Paul and Senator Johnson released just before the hearings. That's the new information, Doc, is that, I think the biggest one beyond that one's probably right up there at the top, but the biggest one is that he questioned whether the disease came out of a wet market or a lab, and actually wrote in his notes that more people think it's lab generated than it is out of the wet market and naturally occurring. And now we know that the CIA was covering up that 6 of 7 experts were saying that it generated out of the Wuhan lab. 6 of 7. For that level of intelligence material to be hidden from the President of the United States and from the medical community, that is what we would call high confidence level of information. If you have 6 out of 7 experts saying a thing, and it never ever came out until it was after it was all over, and it makes a difference because if something's scientifically generated by manipulation, it has different characteristics and treatments are different for it, right?
Exactly. This is really a matter of concern for the future about, bioterrorism and engineered toxins as warfare. And let me just say to people, spiritually, this is a time to have one's house in order, whether it's, jihadists bent on bringing down America for a lot of reasons, whether it's, China, whether it's Russia, or whether it's just bioterrorism for the sake of anarchy. Look, I love life, and America is the greatest country in the world. We're a constitutional republic. We have a GDP that is envied by the rest of the world, and we've got every reason to be grateful and excited about life. But I want to say this is a time personally to say your prayers. Make sure you have a relationship with God through faith in Jesus Christ, but to preserve our nation and vote for constitutionalists and vote for responsible, rational adults who know that men can't get pregnant. And we're living in a time where it's easier and easier to see where people are ideologically. For whom to vote and how to vote should not be a heavy lift for Americans here in 2026.
Yeah, there's an obvious line of demarcation, I would call it, between those that believe in that Declaration of Independence that we're celebrating its 250th birthday, really, of the United States this year, and how we got there, and the men and women that got us there and have gotten us through to this point. There's those like us that still believe in that. And then there's the other side of the line of demarcation that believe in many of the things that you just mentioned. It's a simple prospect. You vote for the continuation of the United States of America as free a country as has ever existed, even in the shape we're in today, or you vote to dismantle it and destroy it, because that's the decision point where we're at. We got to take one more break, Dr. McFarland. When we come back, we'll see Senator Paul's last statement and question at the hearing, and I want to get your comments on that. We'll be right back with Dr. Alex McFarland.
Introducing Worldview Tube Vault. Over 35 years of radio broadcasts, television programs, documentaries, and ebooks. Plus, Worldviewpedia, our powerful search engine for instant worldview and Bible research. Join for as little as $7.99 a month. And now, Vault members get something brand new, courses. Our very first course is here, the Book of Revelation with Brannon House. 53 in-depth lessons, complete with overview quizzes, walking you verse by verse through one of the most important books in Scripture. Getting started is simple. Go to worldviewtube.com/vault and join today. Already a member? Visit worldviewtube.com, click the person icon in the top right, and log in. Then hover over Vault in the menu and select Courses. That's it. You're in. Join WorldviewTube Vault today at worldviewtube.com/vault.
Let's be clear today, what we've seen. I really did want to hear from Dr. Fauci. I wanted to hear perhaps an apology, perhaps some semblance of being sorry for what happened or that judgment errors were made. We didn't hear any of that. But he was subpoenaed here to testify, refused to answer any questions, even after being directed by the chair and being advised of the law requiring him to do so. He has cited a privilege that is unsupported because of his blanket pardon and because he waived the privilege by testifying at the start. I'm going to give you one more opportunity to comply with the law, limited to the period of your pardon. At any point between January 1st, 2014 and January 19th, 2025, did you destroy any federal record or tell anyone else to?
Under the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Given that you have a unlimited presidential pardon, what is your specific objection that you are making?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
My question was limited to the period of your pardon only. I find your objection unsupported and direct you to answer the question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Because you refuse to answer, citing a privilege that is unsupported because of your pardon, and after being denied to do so, this committee has scheduled a vote next week on a resolution certifying your contempt.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast, and it's Truth Thursday, and we're going to tell the truth. And I'm thankful for Senator Paul and Senator Hawley, Senator Johnson, and all the other senators that made Fauci come back to the Senate and testify and compelled him to testify. My guest today is Dr. Alex McFarland. Alex, I think what the senator was doing there was setting up the vote to hold this man in contempt. And two people in politics have gone to prison for being held, I believe, in contempt of Congress. They were both in the Trump administration, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro. Yeah. So the American people's expectations of fairness and equality before the law is pretty high here. Your thoughts on that?
Well, yes, kudos to Senator Paul and Josh Hawley and all of the courageous people trying to uphold the rule of law. Isn't it interesting, Colonel Maness, that Dr. Fauci would claim for himself constitutional rights that he doesn't have, while he denied from other Americans constitutional rights that they legally did have.
Yeah.
But that's the typical double standard that leftists have for decades lived by. But yes, he very well may be looking at jail time, and he should. I mean, really. But, whether it's Dr. Fauci or, O.J. Simpson or the Clintons, even if they escape justice at the judgment bar of man, they will not do so at the judgment bar of God.
That's right. They won't. None of us will, as a matter of fact. And I wanted to ask you, from a pastor's perspective, the trust of the American people in government, in our medical profession, in the economy. I mean, it's just shattered. But the most concerning aspect of all this loss of trust, though, to me, is in the leadership of our churches. And I wanted to get your thoughts on what are the things that we can do as leaders in our country to try to repair that as rapidly as possible. Because, look, I'm very well aware of the Black Robe Regiment's role in the American Revolution and the independence of this country. And it's imperative that the relationship between the churches, its leadership, and the American people is solid and sound. And the thing that I lose sleep over at night about this whole situation is that right there. What are your thoughts on that, on how we as leaders in the community, both as lay people like I am and as pastors like you, can work to help repair that?
God bless you. God bless you. I want to speak to that. And let me cite President Harry Truman, who in 1950 gave a speech, a Democrat, incidentally. Harry Truman said, though, that the fundamental basis of our laws comes from Moses, Isaiah, and the Apostle Paul, and the Sermon on the Mount. Now, what Harry Truman meant by that, Moses, that's the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments found in Exodus 20. And then Isaiah, the prophet of the Old Testament, speaks of the three branches of government. And the Bible speaks of prophet, priest, and king, but we have executive, judicial, and legislative. The three branches of government come from the book of Isaiah. And then the Sermon on the Mount is Christ, Matthew 5 through 7, and that is where we get our spirit of national benevolence. But then when Harry Truman mentioned the Apostle Paul, he was talking about Romans chapter 13, 1 through 7, about good civil government. And Harry Truman, 1950, said that if we lose these things, and to summarize, our moral foundation, if we lose these, we will lose America. And he was right. And so moving forward, and I'm glad you brought this up, Colonel Maness. And again, before time runs out, I want to say how much I appreciate you allowing me to be on. It's a great honor. I look up to you, and it's a privilege. I want to call on the 345,000 churches in America, Protestant, Catholic, the some 500,000 ordained clergy. For one thing, all of us, ministers, laity, citizens, elected officials, we must understand what gave us this free, safe, prosperous America. And it wasn't just economic prowess, and God knows it wasn't progressive anything, wokeness, liberalism, relativism. No, it was God. JFK said, God gave us our rights in January of 61. So we must understand life itself, prosperity, blessings, ingenuity, innovation, prosperity, safety, all of those are gifts entrusted to us by God. And we have recourse here in America. We have a constitution that is fantastic. We must guard it with our lives. We have 50 states. By the way, I don't know if people know this, but 50 out of 50 state constitutions reference God, the Bible, morality. So that's the DNA of America. Now, what we've got to do is individually and corporately, we've got to know truth, live truth, and get this, and I'll throw it back to you, but the 100 million Christians in America, and that's roughly how many adults are believers, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, and then of course we've got our wonderful Jewish friends that are the people of the book, and they've got a moral compass as well. Friends, we need each other for our nation, and we must get together and we must be informed, we must vote, we must influence others, we must instill in our children the fire of patriotism, and yes, we need to get together and we need to pray. Proverbs 14:34 in God's word says that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And folks, I've got to say this. If it's a candidate that doesn't know males and females are different, they don't get your vote. If it's a candidate that does not believe in legal protection for the unborn, which is what the Declaration, 52-word preamble, Constitution, 27-point Bill of Rights guarantee. If it's a candidate that doesn't believe in parents' rights, they don't get your vote. If it's a candidate that believes children should be coached into transitioning and being abused through puberty blockers and surgery that disfigures the bodies of children, they will not get your vote. If it's a candidate that does not acknowledge Israel's right to exist and that the world is a safer place. Besides, it's the right thing to do when America is a strong ally of Israel. They should not get your vote. And I've got to say this too. Look, right now, the 13th largest economy in the world, New York City, is in the hands of a Muslim Marxist. This has got to stop. And I want to say this, clergy, get some courage and get in your pulpit and preach. And there must be a national a referendum, whatever maybe it's an amendment to the Constitution, that Sharia law will not be allowed in the United States of America. We cannot have two governments running parallel, and Islam is a political and cultural system. Individuals can be Muslim if that's their choice, sadly, but Sharia law, no, no, no. And all of these city councils and boards of education and mayoral races and Senate races that are increasingly being populated by Muslims, folks, take note, wake up. The future hangs in the balance. England and so much of the, pluralistic, multicultural Europe is just too far gone to be saved. America is not yet, but it's getting close. We've got to vote, and it's time that pastors get some courage, some presence of mind, and start preaching some inspirational, motivational, hard truth to their parishioners.
Yeah, I agree, Alex. My advice to the pastors would be to go read George Whitfield's sermons that he gave in America, run up to the Declaration of Independence and the creation of this great country. He was a British subject, but he came here and he's the one that laid the seeds, planted the seeds of liberty in the minds of the church. It didn't matter what denomination you were or anything, and the words Great Awakening should be synonymous with George Whitfield's name, and we all need to aspire to be George Whitfields in our communications in the defense of liberty, don't we?
We do. We do. You know, somebody who's doing that is a great friend of mine named Eric Metaxas. August 8th, Saturday, August 8th, he'll be with us in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's all on my website, alexmcfarland.com. And it's free. We have a lecture on the facts about the birth of the greatest nation in the history of the world. It's part of our Conversations That Matter lecture series that we do all over America. And then we've got a big 2-year tour that we're calling Revive US. So, you know, I and our staff would be happy to come to a city near you, dear viewer. Just reach out to us. But hey, we're doing what we can do. You're doing a great work, Colonel Manus. Our nation can be saved. Believe it, folks. But every one of us has to get involved.
Absolutely right, Alex. Thank you very much. And I stand by to do anything I can do to help you in that great work. I'm a big fan of Eric's, and he's got a new book out, I think. I hope he's talking about that, about the American Revolution and that run-up and everything. Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you coming on and talking about this.
God bless you. It's a great privilege. Thank you.
God bless you. I'll see you Monday on Worldview Tube. My guest is CDM Press CEO and former Special Ops helicopter pilot, L. Todd Wood. He's just back from a long trip to Lebanon, and we're going to go around the world on More War Monday. I'll see you then.
You are watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of